Hey guys, Dylan from the Geek Duo here, and today I'll be bringing you my Hero Academia Chapter 291 read-through. Now, before we start, yes, I have glasses. I've had them for ages. It's just, well, I don't normally wear them while recording, but I've noticed in the past couple of these, there have been a couple panels, usually the double spread ones, that I can't actually read properly while standing away from the screen like this. So you see me leaning in, or I've cut out where I leaned in, and well, I've decided to see if I can actually see it properly with my glasses on, like I'm meant to be able to. Anyway, another thing I wanted to say before this starts is I said in the last video that Toya, when he shook the bottle and poured it on his head, it was likely a form of hair dye removal, so like bleach or something that specifically targeted hair dye. I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh no, it was just water. He just didn't wash his hair between when he died and when he revealed. So it's just dirt and grime and that. And others said, there's one more believable than that one, that it's the ashes of those he's killed. Like, he tortures someone, cremates them, and then dyes his hair with the ashes, or it's hair chalk. All three of it, because those last two, yeah, it's understandable how it's so easily washed out, but it being hair dye or it being just unwashed, yeah, that would require a shit ton of actual scrubbing and work time to get rid of, so I'm leaning towards the ash or hair chalk. Anyway, this chapter starts with Endeavor thinking to himself and flashing back to when he was training Toya. This goes on for like the first third of the chapter. But it starts with, the day was one of cold winds and dry air. Toya had perished in a fire. It took place at the Sokoto Hill where I used to train. The flames had exceeded 2,000 degrees, leaving no trace of a corpse behind. I was told that at such extreme temperatures, even his bones had turned to dust and disintegrated to ashes. All that we managed to recover from him was a piece of his lower jawbone. And yet, back then Toya, what's that in your hair?
Huh?
It's turned white.
You're kidding. I'm getting old?
Did you dye it?
No way I'd do that.
Though my firstborn Toya didn't possess Ray's ice quirk, his firepower was even greater than my own.
Anyway, today's the day. Teach me your ultimate move.
As the young Toya, whose hair is dark, the same color as Angie's hair in this panel, meaning when he was younger, a child, his hair was red, but it turned white. So this is probably so that Horikoshi forcing the anime to, when it does the Toya reveal, they actually have to show him with white hair, because in the manga his hair's always been white. This is a mistake I've made as well, yet in the anime it's red. Anyway, as he's saying, today's the day you teach me your ultimate move, he ignites his left arm in a massive Blaze, and he has a big smile on his face. And Endeavor, he's smiling too, but not in a malicious way. Lacking in ice, he would still have to face the detriment of occasionally overheating. Yet, I decided to do my best to raise this child into a hero. At the same time, I had desired a quirk consisting of equal parts ice and fire. My wife agreed and said, if we have siblings, they could encourage each other. So one being ice, one being fire, counteracting each other's bodily detriments, being the perfect sibling duo. And so our second, Fuyumi, was born. She had only inherited an ice quirk, instead of a quirk with both like I had hoped. However, I was fine with it during these times, because Toyo himself had proven to be blessed with more talent and potential than myself. So I had left all my ambitions to Toyo. As he's saying this, the first panel is just black, when he's talking about how Toyo didn't have ice, yet he was going to raise him as a hero. The next three speech bubbles, thought squares, are of a baby Fuyumi. And then it's of when it's saying she only inherited the ice quirk instead of the dual quirk. It shows him playing with, I couldn't actually tell which child this is because it's a baby. It's before he was training Toya. So the child has dark hair, so it must have been a flashback within a flashback. And the final two that starts with because Toya himself had proven to be blessed with more talent, it shows him with his arm still on fire. Then all of a sudden he says, ouch! And he looks at his arm and sees that there's burn marks along his wrist. With you, there was potential to reach heights that I had coveted my entire career. My resentment, jealousy, and ugly heart, all of it. I'd have done away with all of it for you. We see, as this is being said, it starts with the Toya and his burnt arm. We then see a picture of Endeavor as he is today, looking shocked up at Darby. And then they're back in Endeavor's hero world, where we've seen this a couple times. The first when he was trying to, he was standing on the other side of this massive gap and he couldn't get to All Might. And again, when we see him, Hawk saying he was the only one trying to achieve All Might status and him trying to build the little bridge. Well, in this one, we see he finished that bridge. But he's not the one going across. He's nearly on the side he always was. And there's a younger person with dark hair who's crossed the bridge, standing almost right next to All Might. And then it cuts to black before showing us the present day of Shoto and Endeavor staring up at Darby on Gigantamakia's back with the I'd have done away with all of it for you. Toyo is dead. This is an unforgivable lie. I'm alive and kicking. It's an unforgivable truth, Father. So sad that you never bothered to invite me to your fire quirk infested agency. Darby, this is the first I'm hearing of it. He did keep it hidden from us as well. Oh, whatever. Focus. Wake up, Shigaraki. We're here.
give Mucky an order.
What? Are you a part of this overcooked family reunion as well? I don't actually understand that question because he's talking to Spinner and he's just like, are you a part of this fire-infested family as well? You can swab me or take some blood samples as a souvenir if you don't believe me. Go run a DNA test. Though my own test results are already being publicized as we speak. We cut to a bustling city street with a TV on the side of a building. And on that TV we see Darby's message to all of Japan. And in this message he's holding up a DNA test. With some of Endeavor's blood left behind after the big fight in Kyushu, it came back with a 99.99% match. But who would believe a medical document procured by a villain of all people? You all would need a little more convincing than that. After burying me, my father would force my mother to give birth to more offspring, and by the fourth, it worked. Some of you may know him as Shoto. But even with his trophy son, my father would still get physical with him. I've seen it firsthand. As this is being said, we see all of the other three Todoroki siblings. The first is Todoroki looking at the ground with anguish on his face. The next is someone bursting into Fuyumi's classroom to get her attention and pull her away so they can tell her the news. And the third is Natsuo, sitting in his college classroom, looking at the video on his phone with a shocked expression. Throughout the rest of this speech, we see various different, people all throughout Japan seeing this message. The first being an old lady, then we see a street of people looking down at their phones, and then we see what looks to be a social media site, and it's getting an influx of messages faster than people could read because it just keeps scrolling down with more messages, as shown by the action lines on this. Endeavor doesn't have any consideration or respect for others. He has a narrow, self-righteous mentality mired in his self-image. Do you think that kind of human should be allowed to assume the role of a hero? Let alone assume the position of number one? We then cut back to Endeavor's number one fan, the pink-haired boy, and his shark friend. I'm not sure if they're friends or siblings. We don't actually know. I don't even think we know these kids' names. And he's like,
It's a lie. This is... No one would believe this, right? Our faith in heroes won't waver because you said this. We aren't this stupid.
But I guess this kind of trait runs rampant in the industry, as the next thing that appears in Darby's message is Hawks, with his feather sword driven straight through Twice's back. We didn't see this. This is the first time we're seeing this panel. And he's like, I present to you number 2 hero, Hawks. What? I still gotta protect their happiness. The others are waiting for you. As we're seeing this, the series of events has been edited. First, we see Hawks stabbing Twice. Then we see Twice on the ground as Darby bursts in with his fire. And he says, without any hesitation whatsoever, Hawks stabbed a villain with his feather blade as he was crying and running away,
right in front of me as I tried to protect him. Now, this technically isn't a lie. The first 4 words they're the lie, because there was a lot of hesitation, but eventually it got done. But Hawks did stab twice in the back as he was crying and running away, and Darby was trying to protect him. You're welcome for editing this on such short notice. You may now grovel to me. Thanks. Your camera caught some good footage. I couldn't let it go to waste. Endeavour. Consider this a homecoming gift from me to you, since I dug up something on that good-for-nothing spy Hawks as well. Hawks? When these next several panels are what's happening in real time, yet the voiceover from Darby is what's being said in the recordings, and we also find out that this recording is not just being televised but also radioized, being broadcast over radios. In order to infiltrate us, he did something unspeakable. This being Hawks, he killed another hero, the poor number 3 who was recuperating. Best genus. Violence has become such a norm in his life that he did it without a second thought. It's quite similar to someone else actually. His father was a serial robber and murderer. In other words, he was a villain. The reason his name and record are kept from the public is because of that exact reason. His father was caught by Endeavour. What a coincidence. Looks like birds of a feather flock together after all. As this revelation about Hawks and Best Genus is being said, we cut to the medical tents set up at the forest where the raid on the mansion was being coordinated from, and we see Hawks still alive and severely bandaged, and Tokoyami reacting to the news on his bedside. Darby says, I cannot forgive them, and then we cut to what I think is an excellent framing work from Horikoshi and his team, because we see what I can only assume to be a big city like Tokyo, Kyoto, or whatever the equivalent would be in My Hero Academia, and we see every single building, or almost every single building, has a billboard on it. Some have multiple, and on every single one of these billboards we see that there's promotional artwork for one or more of the brands that the heroes are being endorsed by. And let me just say, there are 16 billboards shown on 7 buildings. So that's more than an average of 2 per building. And as this is being shown, Darby says, they're packaged and sold to you under the name of justice, when they don't even have an ounce of empathy. And on top of that, they dare call themselves heroes. They are deceiving all of you. Please, think more critically. The only ones they protect are themselves. Everyone, you are just being used as tools to protect and enable these ugly people. Remember, Darby does see himself as the embodiment of Stain's will. He is doing what Stain tried to do, open people's eyes to the fake heroes around them, show them that they're doing this for personal gain, for money, for fame, recognition, not just to save people. And if people get in their way, they could be seen as disposable and thus disposed of by these heroes. We then cut to reactions to this. We see Endeavor, Midoriya, Bakugo, Ida, Nejire, Shoto, and the two kids from the Pro Hero arc. And it's just like, the person speaking is the victor. Truthfully, I would have been fine with putting this all behind me. Even coming from a villain, the words that I speak will shake them to their cores. Sorry, I just really wanted to gloat a bit. My bad. They won't be able to trust any of you after this. The damage has already been done. After seeing something like that, who the hell wouldn't be shaking in their boots? Thanks for hanging in there until now, Endeavor. And the last two speech bubbles, we see Darby grinning maniacally while Shoto is looking up at his brother terrified. And then as he yells, "Thanks for hanging in there," Darby leaps off of Makia. "Found you. Back then I believed you had to be alive." As Endeavor is stood there, shocked still, he hasn't moved since Darby revealed his identity. But Shoto, seeing the attack incoming, he yells, "Father! He's coming, Father! Protect Midoriya and the others. Senpai and I will handle this. Please, move! Protect them! Hey, get yourself together!" As he's yelling this, we see tears streaming down his face, both at the revelation that his older brother is alive, at his father's reaction, and at the fact that if Endeavor doesn't move, he will die. As Darby is falling through the air, he starts to yell, "Flash fire fist!" And we see recognition on Midoriya and Bakugo's face as Darby continues with "Promenade." But he never gets to finish the move as he's suddenly assaulted by massive, thick metal cables who also attack Gigantomachia. And suddenly his arms are bound to his side by his clothing constricting him. And he thinks, "Wires from above." And he looks up and sees the spools of wires that were being carried by the plane dropping from the sky, as they're also joined by a single figure. And let me just say, this is such an entrance because the figure is upright as they're falling, and not only are they upright, they're just fixing their hair as they're falling. And he says, Apologies for being fashionably late. Best Genius will be returning to work starting today." And we all called it. Well, not all of us. There were the people who didn't know the connection between Best Genius and these cables. There were the people who thought that Hawks actually killed Best Genius. But the people who don't fall into either or both of those categories, we knew that it was Best Genius coming. And my man, he knows how to make an entrance. Like, he just fucking, the image, I can't wait to see this animated, of him falling through the air, not horizontal like a normal person would as they're falling. He is full upright. In fact, in the first image, it looks like he's got his arms crossed as he's falling, and then after apologizing for being late, he starts doing his signature hair smooth, as he says he's returning to work, and it was just a great entrance. Anyway, so even in that first page, I can see that there's, well, not major, but there are differences between mine and the ones that I've seen other people have read for the spoilers. That being the Sokoto Hill that Endeavour trained at, rather than in the spoilers saying the Sokoto room, and it being alluded to this was a room that Endeavour used to test his heat production, where it's in the one I'm reading, it's an outside area where he would test his heat production. Like, he had monitors set up and everything to gauge the heat that was produced, because obviously there wouldn't be many actual people who'd be able to withstand that. And I like how as Toya's hair starts to transition to white, so as the ice part of his quirk, well, not ice part of his quirk, ice part of his DNA starts to break through, what Ray's weak body starts to show, have physical appearance on him. That's when his quirk also physically affects him, because we don't know how long he held that flaming arm for, but it doesn't seem like in the timeline of images that it was a long period of time that passed between him igniting it and his arm getting burnt. I also like the two very different, almost opposing views on what happened revolving around Ray and the birth of Fuyumi, because in Endeavor's mind, he's like, I was training this boy, he didn't have a fire, then Ray proposed the idea that if we have a kid with ice, they could complement each other, work together, and be like that. So we agreed to have more kids. Yet Darby, I really should start calling him Toya because that's his name, but Darby, he says that Endeavour forced Ray to have more kids because he wasn't happy with Toya. Now, this could just be because it was Endeavour's memory, and his memory is probably skewed into his own agenda, but Toya's training was very different from Shoto when he was training, because both Endeavour and the child had a smile on their face in Toya's, yet Shoto was on the ground crying and coughing up his lunch because of how hard he was being trained. And I don't believe that the training with Toya was as cheery as Endeavour is trying to believe it to be. But I also don't think that it's as bad as Darby's remembering it as. I think both of their memories have been skewed by the way in which they feel about how the events transpired, as is actually done with everyone, which is why everyone's memory differs on the same event.
Anyway, I got distracted because my mouse isn't working, so I can't scroll back up through the pages, but I just looked over and saw Festinus' entrance again, and yeah. Anyway, without being able to, there we go. I think it's working now. Okay, good. I like that, Shoto's obvious distress. He's like, my brother is a villain. He's trying to kill my dad. How do I go about this? Dad's not moving because he's fucking frozen in his own head. I need to get my friends away from here and my teacher. What the fuck do I do? We're gonna fight him off. We'll keep him away from everyone until they can get away. That's not gonna work. He's launching Dad's super move. And I'm just saying I like everything about this chapter, but showing the kid from the Endeavor, the Pro Hero Agency arc, is very good callback because he was a fan of the way Endeavor conducted his heroing before he tried to rebrand himself. With he doesn't do fan service, he's very blunt and gruff and that. And yet, personally being saved by him sees that Endeavor, he cares about the people. He cares about those he's trying to save. Which I guess is the people in the same... Anyway. And he stands up for Endeavor when no one else, literally no one else on the scene, was willing to say a good word about him. And now that entire image has been shattered. And it's a very good parallel to society's view on heroes being completely shattered by the two top heroes of the publicity charts being revealed to have some very shady dealings in their hero work. Which, it's great. It's great. Anyway, to stop myself from rambling on more, I'm going to end this now. But, yeah. In my opinion, these chapters have just been getting better and better. And while I'm surprised they didn't go with the whole Toya was also in the Hero Commission child training service, the same thing that Hawks was in, I am also glad that they gave him a unique backstory. Like, Hawks was a child soldier and he's still in the mentality. Toya was not a child soldier in the same scenario, is what I mean. But anyway, that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.